Hello, everyone. Welcome to this, the latest episode of Social Harmony. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Ray. Doctor, so if I can hand everything over to yourself, sir, please, could you tell my audience about you?
Um, my name, believe it or not, real name is Doktor, so it's Doctor. I've been working as a transformational coach for 3 decades. I have a master's in counseling psychology, a doctorate in clinical psychology, and primarily, what I've been doing for the last 3 decades is helping people basically have a better relationship with him or herself.
Hmm.
And with that understanding, that is to help them remove the limited beliefs, the blocks,
Mhm.
because many people have them. It's to help them achieve to have a better relationship, to have a different perspective on life, maybe experience more success in relationships and in their career. But I've also delved into deeper conversations about conscious parenting, to
Mhm.
metaphysics as well, to also supporting men to be able to step into their confidence and so forth. There's so much more. And
Mhm.
majority of that, what I guess you say, have become, I'm a product of my own inner work, I hope.
Mhm.
And I've seen over 6,000 clients and done a lot of coaching, have a lot of years under my
Mhm.
belt. So that's the short story.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, and I've got yeah, a lot to unpack in a little
Yeah.
space, but in 30 years, that's very impressive. So, I mean, can I ask you, what is your approach to this work? How do you differ from others?
Well, uh, first off, for example, in my book, All It Takes Is One, which it's spelled out there, and I'm gonna bring up some of that here,
Hmm.
is that when a person goes sees a therapist, and traditional therapies primarily based around processing. So if a client is sharing his or her feelings, for them, that might be a breakthrough, meaning, okay, great, you're finally able to open up what had happened to you. But
Hmm.
oftentimes, and this is a generalization, but I know people listening to this might agree, and that is that person who's been going to therapy for 5 to 10 years still seems the same. They
Hmm.
they keep attracting the same things in their life, and um, but they might understand where it came from. They might know how
Hmm.
to manage their anger. They might know how to manage some of the stress a little bit better in their life. But
Yeah.
ultimately, not a whole lot has changed. They're just a great narrator of, say,
Hmm.
their childhood or whatever else. And then there's coaching. And with coaching, it could be very solution focused. And that is where a person comes to you and says, I want to I don't know why I keep my businesses continue to fail, and
Hmm.
that person has more of a kind of a motivational spin on it, or they're going to talk to that person about how to look at their funnels and how things are working with their business, and yet
Hmm.
this person kind of has some kind of unconscious propensity to self sabotage,
Yeah.
which the coach does not address.
Hmm.
So with coaching, a person might only be able to push someone so far with just the tactics and techniques. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of coaches out there who charge a lot of money, and if it was that easy, why is it that people fail so much, right?
Hmm.
Both in
Yeah.
therapy
Very
and
so.
coaching. So
Hmm.
I've always approached my coaching with an integration of going deeper, but
Hmm.
also bringing that to the solutions, because ultimately that's what people want. And
Hmm.
so if when I meet with a client for the first time, they have a list of things they want to work on. And each session, we're talking about where are they now with
Yeah.
that problem to, and whether they see something change outside of themselves. What's important is that they at least experience some new perspective about
Hmm.
themselves. Like they feel better. They've now have, they're a little bit more self-aware,
Hmm.
self-aware. However, in that also is that just like yoga, just like weightlifting, just like anything, or where a person's trying to lose weight and they keep emotionally eating, that they might continue to fail in that. And they go to a therapist and coach and they just talk about it from the perspective that's your shit again. That's still your
Hmm.
story.
Right.
to where the person's still not able to achieve the feeling of feeling worthiness or being complete.
Mm.
So where I take people a little bit deeper, and it's also spelled out in my book, is where many of us are running off of outdated collective programs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, there are men out there who are doing okay, who are between 40 and 50, but because they don't own a home, they feel like a loser. They feel like they haven't achieved some certain
Yeah.
goal because that's something they were taught by their father, their
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, and so forth. So no
Yeah.
matter, it doesn't matter how much success they achieve or if they have a supportive wife, they might feel still not enough because they're measuring themselves with something that is doesn't it has nothing to do with their sense of worth. Or
Mm.
even women who have never been married or had children, and they live their life feeling as though that they missed out on something, that there's that they're experiencing less of life than a woman who had a child. And
Mm.
so my book kind of breaks down those main beliefs that we all carry, and it's very important to question ourselves, does that work for us? Because if
Mm.
there's this unconscious barometer in which we are comparing ourselves with, we're going to continue to fail. And then when we continue to fail and feel bad about it, we might still keep talking to our coach, talking to our therapist, talking to our wife, talking
Yeah.
to others, some other type of support team, when the reality is that your view on life, the trajectory, whatever map you have, is erroneous, that it has potholes in it and you're going to keep stepping into it.
Mm.
So when I work with the person, I want to see where maybe what has influenced them in their childhood.
Okay.
Then I want to be able to help coach them to find solutions for the problems and actually give them actionable items.
Mm.
But I also want to look at how they actually look at life,
Yeah.
how they see themselves existing on this planet.
Mm. So
That was
you've
my
gone through
long
the
response.
existential phase at the moment, find out the story, and then I suppose it's reframing these external metrics that have been given to somebody. These, like you said, these markers of life,
Mm-hmm.
and I suppose somebody else's scorecard that you've adopted. Is that is that a fair
That's a
assessment? Would
great.
you say?
I actually like that. I'll
Hmm.
probably use that one day again. Someone else's scorecard. That's really good.
Thank you. And then
Yeah.
so you'll from there do, I don't know, whatever, the scaling, etc., of solution focus, but look to, we understand this about you, this is where you want to be, so what takes you from here to here? Is this
Hmm.
essentially, I suppose, your roadmap of it, if you like?
Yes. It's
Hmm.
it is. It's we all, like, for example, I'm a Gen Xer,
Hmm.
and when I turned a certain age, I remember having thoughts about what my father was doing at that age too. Even the idea of hitting 50 was like, oh, I'm supposed to be middle aged now. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I have so much more fire in me, so
Yeah.
much creativity in me.
Hmm.
And that I remember having some type of pressure of like either I didn't find something or that there's something more to do. And yet
Hmm.
I'm getting to an older age. And I realized that like like I'm much different than my father and
Hmm.
his generation. And that would be an example. Like people age differently today. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot more older actors
Hmm.
getting work as an
Yeah.
example. That wasn't the same 30, 40 years ago.
Hmm. Yeah, I can absolutely relate, and I'll say in 2 days I'm 51, so I'm around about that kind of age as well. There's a lot of
Yeah.
looking forward, but there is, yeah, a lot of looking back and comparison.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done the same. Like now with my son, we go out to the gym, and I'm looking at how I remember guys my age when I was young, and yeah, I think that's it. We have definitely come out of a generation where we age differently. I think now I don't know about you. I feel in here as though I've still got I don't know, the joy of a 20-odd-year-old. I want to go out and do things, whereas it felt like when I was younger, guys that had hit 50, they were really slow and sedentary.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I suppose that's something that we notice, and that's something over, yeah, generations that change. So if I can, sorry, go on, please.
No, I was going to say that, and the generations that are, younger now, I imagine many of them are going to age a lot better than we did.
Hmm,
Um, some probably even worse, just given like, depending on what they're eating. But, that's when it comes to evolution, we hopefully we learn how to do things better. So like,
hmm.
it's funny, like a 70-year-old in the 80s looks like some, 27 today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it looks like they looked old.
Hmm,
Um, and so life was a lot harder, life was a
yeah.
lot harder. Then they had to work hard. Their diet wasn't the best. They didn't get much sleep. And
Hmm,
so like even my son, he's 11 years old, and I was already driving my parents' car when I was 12.
hmm,
And I look at my son and go, "Oh my God, he seems so much he's really highly intelligent, but
hmm,
also there's a level of immaturity he has, which I also love
hmm.
too, because he's still innocent. Like I just realized,
Yeah.
man, was I just hardened when I grew
Hmm,
up? Like because I seem to know a lot more than he does. I was far more street
hmm.
smart because I think it was a little more challenging for me when I grew up than it is for him."
Yeah. Yeah, as you're saying that, again, I'm making comparisons with my own son in the same way. And I suppose, yeah, it is a generational thing that kids these days do seem a bit more, let's say, childish for a word in some of how
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
interact. But yeah, very, very quick on the uptake with things. I
Hmm.
suppose in a way that, yeah, I feel like I wasn't. I probably was a bit more street smart. And that's
Hmm.
not to say, I had the hardest childhood, but yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe it's that Gen X badge of honor that we wear. We were just sort of raised different.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
with that in mind, I mean, yeah, a conversation about conscious parenting, and this is something I speak to lots of people around about this age, and I suppose there's a lot of looking back on, like you just alluded to then, how our parents raised us and the
Hmm.
difference to child raising and parenting nowadays. I mean,
Hmm.
when I was younger, I mean, my dad was around or whatever, it wasn't that, but it wasn't expected that dads were particularly involved.
Hmm.
Other little differences that, I mean, I have heard people moan about my parents never gave me this, they were never there for this, but it was a different time. And I suppose this would lead into, well, first off, what is conscious parenting and how did we get here?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily a lot of parents are being conscious right now, but I think that parents are far more open and
Mm,
transparent, even with stuff they maybe shouldn't really expose their
mm,
children to. But
yeah.
there there's when I use the word conscious parenting, I know other people might use it as well, and they think that's conscious. Um, it doesn't. I don't want this to sound like necessarily spiritual. It's more that when you are parenting, you are aware of your intentions, that you understand how you have a story about your child and what you prefer,
Mhm,
but you also have enough awareness to stay curious to understand his or her story as well, so they can collaborate in the conversation. So
mhm,
that's one level of kind of that type of communication. Two, it could be also where you think ahead of like what could come from being exposed to social media early on. And like, for example, if you have a daughter and you know that there's a lot of sexuality, and there's a lot of body dysmorphia that's happening with younger girls. You want to be conscious and proactive to maybe not let them have an Instagram account until they're a little bit older and have developed a stronger sense of self, particularly when they're going through puberty.
Yeah.
That would be considered a conscious choice because you care, and you're going to have to create some boundaries, and the child might resist. That child might push against it, and it might be because she feels different than the other girls or teenage girls around her. However, you as a conscious and caring parent, you might be you know that that's going to have its benefits. You have to trust that's going to have its benefits as your daughter gets older and understands herself better. That would be conscious parenting as well. The other part would be, I could just keep going on different levels here in this tangent, but it would be that I am in a relationship with your mother, or I am in a relationship with your father. That meaning that the way that parents show up as conscious parents is recognizing that how we show up as a couple, whether we're happy or sad, impacts our
Yeah.
children, that they are intuitive, they pick up on that, and you want to be aware of that. You can't just hide things and suppress it and so forth, because what you're doing is also creating ways that they're going to possibly learn, which could be where they hold back as well. And so it's like recognize the entire system. um, it's like its own living organism, and that you want to be aware of that, as far as how you're becoming as an individual, as a partner to the mom or dad, and how you're being received by your children, to also, recognizing their story about you.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I think. Yeah, one of the first things when my daughter was born, I don't know why I got this sort of feeling inside that I wanted her to be able to look at me and see, a good man, what a good man should be about.
Mhm.
Whether that's just as an entity or as a dad, as,
Mhm.
husband to mom and things like that. But if I can ask, how would say let's say somebody's, I don't know, damaged in their upbringing and what have you, and they're coming to this totally new or with some skewed perspectives. How would you begin working with somebody around this to embed this philosophy?
So for clarity, when you said someone, are we switching the topic from conscious parenting to just an actual any individual who wanted to work with me?
Um, Potentially. What I suppose I'm asking is, we grow up, assuming that how we were raised is the norm in other houses and what have you. Whereas somebody who may have come from dysfunctional family systems,
Hmm.
to moving somebody across to, I suppose, seeing how conscious parenting is enacted. Does that make sense?
Okay, so in other words, you're saying how would it maybe a client who's an actual parent would be
Hmm.
able to become more conscious of how they're parenting, how they're showing up, and so
Yeah,
forth?
yeah, yeah. That's probably a better description of it.
Okay. Well, mostly uh, when adults come to me who have kids, they're usually coming for themselves, um, and they might say how the relationship with their spouse is probably impacting the kids. Then we
Hmm.
start talking about the kids. Um, I'm working with a man who got divorced 3 years ago, and he brought up questions to me about his son and daughter.
Hmm.
And the daughter is picking up a lot of the negative traits that the mother had. So he's just trying to reconcile, kind of like, or accept there's certain aspects that might not change because he doesn't, the daughter is with the mother, more of the time. Doesn't have much of
Hmm.
an influence on that. But anyway, a person typically comes to me when they're ready. And when I
Yeah.
mean that they're ready, that, you never know what a person's bottom low is. You don't know when they've hit rock bottom,
Hmm.
but it might be a point where they've actually have gotten 3 DUIs to where they've had 4 different marriages. It might be
Hmm.
just that they're not feeling really well and they have a buddy who did some coaching and they refer them to me. But as far as that person being ready,
Hmm.
typically it's where just nothing's working.
Yeah.
That's it. And as far as to work with them, that is where I get a whole map of kind of like, again, first off, if I were to wave a magic wand over them and they were
Hmm.
to tell me how they wish life would be, I would want to know that painting. And then
Hmm.
also to their best ability, ask, why do you think you're not there? What's in the way? So,
Hmm.
most people want to alleviate something. They want to gain something. They want to improve something. They want to get away from something. They want to heal something. It's all
Hmm.
pretty much the same. But uh, what it takes to do that is really the question. And it's not typically about my techniques. It's about the client's will.
Yeah.
The client's will to want to change those things, because typically what stops people from healing and changing ways of thinking about things is control, fear of change. To
Hmm.
They might have a stronger belief or fear that seems to be, even though it's nonsensical,
Hmm.
unconsciously they'd rather stay in that belief system than accept some new personal responsibility.
Yeah.
They, for example, could be where, I'm just making this up, a man has a partner and she's going to the gym and she's starting to look good. And he starts to complain about that she's not with him a whole lot and that she's spending more time at the gym or something. And um, then, he starts saying that, I don't know why she needs to work out there. We have a gym at her house. So, like, is she looking at guys to
Hmm.
whatever else? And she just seems to like the social aspect of it. It just seems to motivate her. And he's just bothered, and he keeps projecting out, trying to control her from going out there. But finally, he recognizes that he has more of a concern. It's an issue of control of her becoming more interested in someone else to, uh, if she gets better looking, then she'll maybe want to find someone else to,
Hmm.
he really feels bad about himself and how he looks. And he's not very motivated to stay in a gym. And so there's all this projection to somewhat try to control his partner.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times people try to do that. They try to control the physical world. They try to manipulate for things outside themselves to change. And
Hmm.
even if those things change, those insecurities always resurface.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Never
mean,
fixes anything.
yeah, as you say that, there's a lot of things I can relate to. I mean, I've been to therapy myself, and so there were occasions where I think when I first ever went, I wanted to just show up and get a little laundry list of tips, do this, 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 and everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which now, looking back, I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready to receive, I wasn't ready to engage properly. But what you're saying in the end, then, I think I've had phases of that as well, and it would end up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, not specific to the example that you use there, but yeah, the guy that's trying to and maybe a bit pour a bit of scorn on why his wife's going out,
Mm-hmm.
but then continuing down that path, chances are she probably will end up leaving him. She wasn't thinking of it at stage one, but by the time he carried on with this, it's
Yeah.
you know I'm sick of this now. I'm going, and she starts looking outward because he's being, yeah, quite, I suppose, quite awful and scornful. So yeah, I can pick up on what he's saying there. So, well, I suppose in regards to conscious parenting again, and I'd like to look at, I suppose, benefits for the relationship between parent and child, which you alluded to, that was very different to in our day, let's say. Because I see I've seen a couple of sides to this. I mean, I try and implement some of these practices with my kids, and I think we have a good relationship. I
Hmm.
like to think I've got good boundaries, but I do see a lot of parents who veer more into friend and peer status
Hmm.
rather than parental status. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I had an older father, born in 1925.
Mm,
And so my dad was definitely from he was two generations behind me.
mm,
And he had a more authoritarian approach. Um, my brother I have an older brother who's like a baby boomer.
mm.
So I can see kind of like that black or white type of thinking. I can see it also
Yeah,
in, American politics, which is pretty messed up where you got like older guards there with these black or white thinking, and
yeah,
they just can't get their shit together and get along.
yeah.
And so I could just kind of see how that's all played out just with personalities and culture and so forth.
Mm,
And I think that Gen Xers wanted to do it better than
mm,
the baby boomers. So,
mm,
and I think that's where a lot of them like became friends with their children.
mm.
To there's a story of like my dad never told me he loved me. So
Yeah,
now we have Gen Xers overcompensating. I love you for this.
yeah,
Oh, you got a D on your report card. Thank you for the effort. I'm so proud of you. It's like an
yeah,
overcompensation. Also with a
yeah.
positive parenting movement. So I think we went to the opposite side of the spectrum.
Mm,
There's some of that to where we've seen the results uh through all the pop psychology books of like what has how being disconnected and from your kids could uh, cause challenges in their adult relationships.
yeah,
Or we've I guess you say like we every generation learns something new,
yeah,
right?
definitely.
Yeah. And
Mm,
so with the whole part of being friends with your kids, I think it's like we have a lot more in common with our kids today. I think Gen Xers than prior generations.
mm,
You know,
yeah,
there's there was like extremes or something about that. I don't know what that was.
mm,
And I think that we're just more open about different things that we can talk about as well. But it's important to remember, and if this helps you understand about being a leader as a parent, it's remembering that you're here to show them how life works. And
mm,
what I mean by that is that's an interesting statement, especially for a parent who kind of has a really fucked up childhood and has betrayal issues. I mean, in fact, I kind of go, "Oh God, don't show your kid that life because then you have a kid who's hyper vigilant who has trust issues now, right?"
mm,
But let's
yeah,
just say who someone has their head on their shoulders, and you're there to kind of show them different ways you might be perceived by. I'll give you an example.
mm,
My son, he's really mature and he's more like a 70s kid. And I
mm,
taught him that if you look at people in the eye when you say hello or you shake a hand, that will go a long ways.
yeah,
Whether that's 100% the truth or not, I know when I grew up, that meant a lot. And
yeah,
but I don't tell my son you're going to end up being look like that's what works completely. I will share with him it somehow shows confidence when you look at someone in their eyes and you shake
mm,
their hand. Two, you might be received a certain way where they respect you more.
mm,
I've taught my son how to banter. He's really good at communicating. He's
mm,
very well liked, and I've shared with him. I go, uh, in life, most things are sells.
yeah,
And I said, you're somewhat selling yourself to a girl you might be interested in at some point, some way.
mm,
There's in the exchanges and the conversations, you're kind of maybe sharing parts of yourself, whether it's just being transparent and being open with your emotions,
mm,
to how you show up for in front of your girlfriend's father, whether or not you're trying to bullshit or being real. And so I talked to him about these things in life to
yeah,
kind of how he might be received.
yeah,
But I give him options. I
mm,
give him options, and I do talk to him like a friend, like I would talk to a buddy.
yeah,
But I'm very clear with who has the last word. I'm very
mm,
clear with, that there's certain boundaries we have, and that like integrity, not lying, uh, even not snitching, not taking credit where not taking credit if it's not yours. I mean,
mm,
there's like pretty old school principles I have instilled in my son, and you see
mm,
it.
yeah,
And because that, the byproduct of that is like it's like hanging out with a buddy. We
mm,
laugh our asses off. We really get along.
mm,
But when for example, we're driving in a car and I saw his fingernails, and I'm like, dude, I go, what? I go, you want it to look like a freaking bear? And I could be
mm,
sarcastic with him about that. I go, I
yeah,
go, I go, dude, I go, it looks, I go, it looks kind of grubby. I go, but that's me. I go, it looks like, you're sticking your hand in dirt or whatever. I go,
yeah,
cut those things. He'll cut his nails, but I'll mess with him. I'm
mm,
still going to be a parent and say something about that. Um, I'm definitely always guiding him, and I
mm,
can be his friend also. But I'm comfortable also with leading
mm,
myself, and I think
mm,
that's what it is. It's like many parents who become the friends of their child have these issues. Number one, boundary issues with themselves,
mm,
insecurity with leading themselves. Uh, they have people pleasing tendencies.
mm,
Um, they have unhealed trauma. Therefore, they project their childhood and don't recognize that maybe their child is stronger than them and very
mm,
emotionally resilient. Those
mm,
are factors and why this happens. And what's
mm,
unfortunate, whatever you're trying to protect your kids from, that you're holding back from or overcompensating with, they become.
mm, yeah. Yeah, again, I'm seeing a lot more parallels there as well. As I mean, my son, he's 14, so we go to the gym, we go surfing together, and it is quite a buddy relationship. But I've been very conscious myself in
Mhm.
that, I suppose, yeah, things that I feel I didn't have when I was a kid that I
Mhm.
look back and wish I did. And I've gone through cycles of sort of pointing fingers at my parents when I was younger to now just getting
Mhm.
to a point where, you don't know what you don't know, and
Yeah.
things were done differently back then. I think my overhang is that I've probably over explained things to him. Like you were saying yourself, you know, this is
Yeah.
why I'm saying this is why I'm doing this is why we need this. But yeah, I don't know. I've worked very, very hard, I think, to differentiate, and make those boundaries myself. I
But that's
won't.
really a good thing, like the explaining how life works. I'm the same way.
Mm,
I'm the same way. It's
mm,
different if like something happened where he acted out of line and you feel guilty about it. You keep saying, "Well, this is why Dad did this. This is why." And he's like, "I'm cool. I'm cool." You keep going
yeah,
on, but we didn't. That's an expansion of where we came from. The response we got
mm,
was, "It's just because
because I said so. Yeah.
I said so." Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one. Like, again, I've worked sort of hard to come out. And my kids, again, my daughter's a different example. Again, she's one where she's been raised, to stick up for herself, and she is a bit bolshy. And she was always, I don't know, when she was little. All right, we go and do that. Why? Whereas in my day, it'd be a clip round the ear because I said so.
Yeah.
Get it done. That kind of thing. Whereas, yeah, that's not how we do it nowadays. So now I'm having to be more conscious about, well, my answer after the fact. But
Hmm.
then I suppose one thing that's it became a bit of a bone of contention between myself and my now ex-wife was she saw that as conceding ground, like she
Hmm.
was kowtowing to a kid.
Hmm.
Whereas I suppose I took a different view in that I'm explaining to her, I'm getting, I suppose, compliance by, telling her why we need to do these things.
Hmm.
Whereas, yeah, that created a bit of a bit of friction between us. So I guess,
Hmm.
I mean, that throws up another set of conversations in that, like I asked about conscious pairing, bringing it to people who are not really of the mind.
Hmm.
How would you manage conflict between partners along those sort of levels? You're trying to, I suppose, encourage conscious parenting at a whole, but there's two very different viewpoints coming at it.
Well, okay, so the mother of my child definitely has a big heart.
Hmm.
And I'd say she's more on like a basic level of what I would consider good parenting or
Hmm.
um like meaning I'm on a whole nother level of what I share with my son. And whether that's just how I explain certain things,
Hmm.
uh, and like on the weekends, we definitely are pretty active at when he was at his mom's, like they might not do a whole lot,
Hmm.
um, which is not a bad thing. I'm definitely into exercise and getting out there
Yeah.
where his mom is not, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I look at what's most important
Hmm.
because if I were to judge her in front of him, if I
Yeah.
were to um, have him feel like he has to take sides,
Hmm.
that wouldn't be healthy. And
Yeah.
so I also know that I didn't have a perfect childhood and I was exposed to contrasts and things that we can call negative that got me where I'm at.
Hmm.
So I have to remember that through that contrast with his mother at times, that there's some value in that. I'll give you an example. His
Yeah.
mother wasn't stable for the first 2 3 years 3 years of his life. In fact, for a while. And uh, well, here's a by the way, if people are like, what does that even mean? Where were you, Ray? Well, his mother was separated from her husband when her
Hmm.
and I hooked up. She got pregnant. She didn't
Hmm.
let me know it was my baby. So
Right.
Max didn't show up until he was 5.5 months old.
Hmm.
So she fled from the husband and everything else. And so yeah, it was a kind of a chaotic experience. And that's why
Yeah.
Max ended up living with me full time when he was 4 years old.
Hmm.
But she uh, moved so many times, just was unstable.
Yeah.
However, Max acclimates to new places really easy.
Hmm.
What happened?
Hmm.
He had a pretty healthy, grounded parent. He had a parent who moved around a lot. So
Yeah.
maybe somewhere in there he adapted to that rather than
Hmm.
getting stuck in one place, which I
Hmm.
really appreciate about him. That is an example. Uh, he experiences how I don't work as hard as she does.
Hmm.
So obviously he has more of an attraction to being an entrepreneur versus being a worker bee.
Yeah.
So she's a real hard worker. Uh, he experiences different things in different households where it's given him a reflection of
Hmm.
about how he might want to be and become. So if a person is with a parent who has unhealed trauma, who has just really outdated ways of raising a child to where they feel threatened,
Hmm.
unless they are conscious, unless they're able to communicate really well, there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
But if they communicate well and they still don't want to change their ways, and again, if they communicate well, they're going to be able to maybe hopefully understand your perspective,
Yeah.
that you can agree to your differences
Hmm.
and respect each other from that perspective. And she can understand why it is that you do certain things a certain way in your home and
Hmm.
why she does things a certain way in her home as well. And kids can really adapt to that. They really can see that. And
Hmm.
uh, kids have the tendency more to gravitate towards the happy parent, the
Hmm.
confident parent, more than anything else. So if you're one of those people who think, I am conscious, I'm the conscious parent, I'm the one who's doing the most, well, then
Hmm.
also ask yourself, do I seem the most stressed or worried?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. I think because, well, my ex and I I don't know. We've got very very different parenting styles,
Yeah.
and I think the big kick up for me was, I suppose, changing my own lens. At
Mhm.
first, I think I was trying to be, I don't know, project myself as the great parent and things like that.
Mhm.
And in the end, it was a friend of mine said, you know, he'd split up with his wife, and he said the stepdad or whatever. He said it's great. You know, my boy, he comes to me and he has this, and he's got another step parent who can teach him things that I never could. And that
Mhm.
sort of flicked something over in me and thought, I I shouldn't be trying to compare or to, you
Mhm.
know, make it I suppose a competition. And this is where, with my kids now, I just think, well, I'll show up as I am. As it is, I've got both of them here with me now.
Mhm.
You know, they live with me. They seem to gravitate what I'm about at the moment. So
Mhm.
yeah, I suppose I'm like, I must be appearing confident and knowledgeable somehow. I don't know, but I do. Yeah, I do think things have got better, and they've got a lot more comfortable and confident about things once I started to chill out a little bit. I
Mhm.
think there was a lot of that, you know, like you're saying, that whether it's unresolved trauma or my own esteem issues, maybe, that were coming out. And yeah, I think that's something. I don't know whether I'd class myself as an overly conscious parent, but I think I'm quite proud of myself for, yeah, I think I've done something right there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's. I was gonna say is that I could sound like I maybe have had my shit together as far as um, I guess raising my kid and so
Hmm.
forth. But the truth is that uh, I've been pretty stressed raising
Hmm.
my son. Raised him by myself, and my parents were elderly, and
Hmm.
they couldn't help out. And as you imagine, my son showed up suddenly, and his mother having PTSD. I had a lot of I was holding a container, but also
Hmm.
my son had different health challenges. He had retained primitive reflexes,
Hmm.
um, all these different things which could lead to a learning disorder. And he
Hmm.
now has a 3.0 in a very difficult private school. So
Hmm.
I got him out of that to where he's at now.
Yeah.
And uh, all of it was done naturally through just
Hmm.
integration techniques to, but I've been troubleshooting like almost like he's been a project to help him
Hmm.
get where he's at now.
Yeah.
And what he's picked up on is always something to fix. The
Hmm.
overarching story he's got is there's always something to fix about me or
Hmm.
whatever. And it's
Hmm.
not like I'm that's the way I want to be. But
Hmm.
I've had to fix things. Even his mother, I've chose to lean in and try to take
Yeah.
care of things. So even if I consciously was a pretty good parent, even
Hmm.
though I would, just like yourself, Lee, I would try to explain certain things with him. Even though I get along with him, he is seen a parent always in problem solving mode. And
Hmm.
therefore, it can create the impression that there's something always wrong with me.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
not that I'm saying that to him, but you can see by just his experience, we're going to see a specialist. I'm saying, Max, you got to work on your integration exercises.
Hmm.
You have to do this, work on this. And, at some point, he's not said this to me, but imagine him saying, man, fuck, like, when is it ever going to end?
Yeah.
And he has graduated. Like, he had speech delays. He's seen a speech therapist 3 different times. And when we moved to Asheville, he saw a speech therapist this one last time, and I wanted to see if there's something there. And she said he's fine, he's age appropriate, he's good. I remember like getting emotional. I cried in the
Yeah.
car. I was like,
Awesome.
Max, I go, this is like a big accomplishment. I go, you don't know the difference. I go,
Hmm.
but like you're done with this. Like we're done. We're done with this. Because I want him to have all of the the tools he needs.
Mm.
I want him to have everything I didn't have. And
Mm.
and the challenges I had, like even I had speech challenges. So it's like as a parent, we want to make sure we give our children everything, I would assume. But
Mm.
what we don't want to give them is our stress
Yeah.
about trying to get those things. Or we also want to make sure that what we're sharing too is that it's okay to be different and have our uniqueness.
Yeah.
Like people are listening to me and are probably trying to figure out where the hell is this guy from? Like I have a strange type of way of speaking with a mother who had broken Japanese and a father from New York. I swear
Mm.
too much, and that's from my father from the Bronx, from New York. So,
Mm.
it's like, but that's my uniqueness, and some people are
Yeah.
turned off by it. And I've been told, you maybe shouldn't swear on podcasts, or
Mm.
you're not going to always be received by people by dropping an F bomb. And I'm like, oh, I try, but I only can be myself.
Yeah.
So we have to accept the uniqueness of our children also. But the point of this long share here is like, you know, there's so much happening in the unseen,
Yeah.
it's like, and hopefully you can be conscious of that and recognize while I'm trying to steer my child in this direction and guide him, I have to model happiness as well. I have to
Yeah.
walk my talk of feeling okay and confident in my own skin.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. No. No. I really do like that. I mean, listening to you talk, then I was sort of thinking, well, where does it end? When is there a, I don't know, for want of a better phrase, a conscious uncoupling, if you like.
Mm.
And not to say that you move away from your child, but I suppose that there gets to a point where you over egg the pudding. And again, I'll what I'll do is I'll spin my laptop around so you can just see. I don't know if you can see. That's one side of books,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more there. There's some up there. Now, again, when we talk about before about learning things, I've had a phase, especially when my kid first was, even in utero. I started with the books. I wanted the knowledge. I suppose that's how I dealt with things at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That it was the constant drum of information.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose like you've alluded to there, a continual project.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose it does throw up the very big question of, well, when do you learn to sort of step back and let them fly? When does that realization kick in?
Yeah. Yeah, because it could be a forever, it's an ongoing process.
Hmm.
My son has braces, and he started off with braces when he was uh, 8 years old.
Hmm.
And uh, and when I say braces, of course he didn't have all his teeth didn't come out, but they now have like dental care there where they can kind of guide the mouth, you know, as he grows, and then he has a retainer and
Hmm.
so forth. And it's worked out. Like right now, he just has a retainer. There's nothing he can do until a few more teeth come back in. But
Hmm.
he's not going to really have to wear braces. But he had two front teeth really sticking out far, and he sees those pictures of himself, and he's like, thank you, Dad, for not letting me walk around looking like Huckleberry Finn or
Yeah.
like it. I mean, they really would stick out,
Hmm.
and that's mainly what I was trying to help him with. So again, he has a good smile, so he
Hmm.
doesn't have to be self-conscious of that. But also, I never made him self-conscious of it. Like
Hmm.
when he had those teeth, it wasn't like I was saying, "Wow, look at your messed up buck teeth."
Hmm.
It was more, "Hey, this is something that you might want to do." And it wasn't until he turned 10, 9 or 10, and he saw the teeth like like being normal or compared
Yeah.
again, he's starting to compare himself, and he starts seeing other kids at school with like maybe messed up teeth, and he's
Hmm.
like, thanks Dad for helping with my teeth. I go, I can't believe I didn't even know that. I go, I didn't let you know that.
Hmm.
So innocently I approached different parts of his development from that place of like not trying to shame him.
Hmm.
So meet him where he's at, but also share the information from the perspective that this is something you may want to do. This is something
Hmm.
that can help you. This is something that I really believe that you probably would want,
Hmm.
and it's worked out.
Yeah. No, I like that. So, I mean, I suppose to that end, would you say that this is all part of the overarching conscious parenting thing, insofar as, I don't know, I mean, let's say if I was a parent to come to you with the conscious parenting in the forefront, I'd probably be looking for some guidelines of how to go along. But what you've said to me now is more of a mindful approach. You're thinking very, very holistically. So would that be
Yeah,
a fair assessment of what conscious parenting is? It's that more, yeah, that more holistic approach throughout.
I like that word, Lee, the holistic. Yes,
Mm,
it's looking at all the bigger picture. Like holistic is seeing everything, even the things that you think they're deprived from, as
mm,
possibly learning that you don't know. To
mm,
even the things you think are helping to recognize, be humble enough to say, I don't know if it's going to help. I don't
mm,
know. I don't, I really don't know what he's going to get from this,
yeah.
so like, I'll give you an example. Um, God, because this happened yesterday. I'll just
Mm,
read it to you. It's pretty funny.
okay.
I got
Yeah.
this from a school, and I'm, like I said, I'm pretty open with, my life and what happens. Okay.
Mm, yeah.
This is from his teacher yesterday.
Mm,
Max was home from school yesterday. He had a cold. It says,
mm,
"Hi, I just wanted to let you know that Max brought in a bottle of mouthwash in his backpack last week on Friday and told some kids he had been drinking it. He did not drink any in my classroom, and told him I didn't want to see the bottle again. Miss
mm,
Stackhouse saw him with it out in her class as well. Can you make sure he does not bring mouthwash to school? He has been telling kids that he has been drinking it, and the reason that he is sick today. He's also been saying to his peers that he also drinks hand sanitizer, and I just wanted to let you be aware of the situation. I miss Max today. Have a blessed day, Miss Connor." And I love that she said she missed him. And
yeah.
I know that this wasn't true, but I
Mm,
know that Max has been spoken to like an adult by me.
mm,
We love Will Ferrell movies, and our
mhm,
family, coming from my brother, dad from the Bronx,
mm,
there's a lot of sarcasm, and there's
mm,
a lot of stuff we'll say that we get, but the
yeah.
culture his age doesn't.
Yeah.
To, like, he's become friends with boys who are older than him because the kids his age are a little bit immature, but they don't really understand the sarcasm.
Mm,
In our house, we don't even have, like, we don't use harsh chemicals.
mm,
So I asked Max about this, the mouthwash thing, and he's like, "Well, I just like to have good breath." I'm like, "That's my boy. I'm glad that he's not gonna be a boy who
mm,
has, always bad breath." But he sees me spraying my mouth with mouth spray.
mm,
I talk a lot, so I don't want to have bad breath. So
yeah.
I don't see this as a problem. He brought the mouthwash to school. If he was an
Mm,
adult, would that be a problem, or maybe
mm,
more of a compliment to him?
yeah.
You get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going,
Absolutely.
shit. Yeah, I'm like, wouldn't most parents, and it's not stuff with alcohol in it. Most
Mm,
parents would want their kids to have fresh breath, but the kids are too immature to understand anything about it.
mm,
And he didn't even swallow it. And I guess he said to the kid who, like, said, "You have this mouthwash," he says, "It's not like I'm drinking hand sanitizer." That
mm,
was taken out of context. Some kids share that as if he said he was drinking it.
yeah.
And then they made up a story that he was sick. He wasn't at school. He wasn't at school yesterday because of that. Had
Mm,
nothing to do with it. And I copy and pasted this, and I
mm,
sent it to Max. I says, "Dude," I go, "I'll share with her kind of where you're coming from." I go, "But you
mm,
got to talk to her also. And you need to make sure she talks to you, like, in real time, because I don't want to get emails when I don't
mm,
know the whole story, and you can hold your own."
yeah.
And it's just cool we kind of have that exchange. And I shared that with his teacher, and she said something really nice, but she
Mm,
didn't do the, say, in the investigation of that first. In fact, she said, "I just, I just want to let you be aware of it." But,
mm,
she treated Max the same way that she might treat other kids. She wrote,
mm,
"Hi, thanks for your reply. That is what I thought." Well, give him the benefit of the doubt, talk to him like an adult, or like
Yeah.
I would, like kind of this, ask him straight out. Like, I'm a parent where like I won't get defensive, but I also don't want to defend my kid when he can speak for himself. She wrote,
Yeah.
I just wanted you to be in a loop. Max is a great student, and I can tell he's really trying his
Mm.
best to be successful. And he really does have a great sense of humor. Have a great night. So I'm thinking this, I'm going, well, work with that, know that. Like, but
Mm.
she cannot separate my son from the other kids. And
Yeah.
what I thought was great for my son in our home doesn't necessarily work with the children there. And so
Yeah.
here, he's going to maybe feel a little bit different, like he is not well received, to how I'm raising him is to my best ability. And our collective is growing. But that's all I can know. And I have to remember that, like, none of that hurt him. Like, we're growing together and he's able to handle his own. But, I noticed the parents also, they don't know how the children are and they don't
Mm.
know how the parents are. And always when these teachers talk to me, they say it's like a breath of fresh air, because I'm all about, tell me I go, don't talk
Yeah.
my son up. I know he can be a smart ass sometimes.
Yeah.
I know that he can, like, because he doesn't want to do a lesson, he's going to get chatty to throw you off. I
Mm.
go, like, just tell me the real stuff. And they love that we can communicate. And I
Mm.
know other parents would probably want their kids to be less hypersensitive and straight
Mm.
shooters and be able to handle feedback also. But if you're a parent who gets defensive easy, if you can't handle, someone sharing something that maybe you're doing, well, your kids are modeling that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as you were telling me that story, I don't know. This is my view. That just feels like, I don't know, a bit of overreach, a bit nanny state, if you like. Like you say,
Yeah.
it's mouthwash. When I was a
Yeah.
kid, I think, we had it drummed into us. You brush your teeth, you use mouthwash, you do all these things. So I don't
Yeah.
know why that would be a problem. But I can take the point, like, with, because my daughter, yeah, she was the one that was more bullshit, and she was very, I don't know, the teachers either responded well to her because she talked above her age.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm from the north of England. We master in sarcasm as well, So she's grown up on that. Whereas, yeah, my son's more placid and easygoing. He's the guy that everybody gets along with. He's chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas my daughter is, I suppose, more polarizing,
Hmm. Yeah.
which, you know, she's great value. I love having conversations with her. And then, like, she's just turned 18 now. I can have some really, really spirited talks with her.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that'd be a sort of thing that she would do. And then she would be
Yeah.
like, well, what's your problem? And your teacher either responds well or doesn't. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. But I'm sort of thinking, like, yeah, we're coming up on an hour now. This conversation's thrown by. So can I ask, what's
I want to
next?
throw something out there really quickly, what you said
Yeah,
about the whole mouthwash. So,
yeah,
where we moved from, I am
mm,
telling you, oh my God, you heard about the woke culture in the United
yeah,
States.
yeah.
So, where I was living, it was just so heightened, this little small little town. And the
Mm,
kids were so insecure and like so fragile. And I'm not judging it. I'm just saying it is what it is. And Max struggled there
mm,
to be received. And he's by far, he's well received here. Like he's very happy.
mm,
But over there, as an example, is that, I would get an email being told that my son pulled out bubble gum in class. I'm like,
mm,
why you send me email about this? Can't you handle this yourself? To Max brought some firecrackers. Firecrackers, they're these little poppers you just throw on the ground.
oh, yeah.
And so I would get emails to, the last one was where I want Max to write a poem about how he's never going to climb a bar again, uh, and so forth. And Max is saying, Dad, could you help me with this poem? And I said, what's the poem? He says, well, it's about me not climbing a bar. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, there's this bar that I was like kind of doing pull-ups on. I said, how tall is a bar? He says, well, you can jump up and grab it. I said, so in other words, you're like a foot or 6 inches from the ground? He's like, yeah. I go, so you basically can't hurt yourself? He's like, no. and if you fall, you wouldn't hurt anybody. He's like, no. I
Mm,
went, dude, I go, you're being a boy. And it was a
mm,
constant thing where they would castrate boys for being boys and playing and trying
mm,
things out. And so you would see it in a culture where the boys were just frightened, and the boys who were kind of trying to be boys
mm,
were always getting in trouble. And so
mm,
the thing that I like, my parents would get an email, they would get a phone call, there's something more serious. But
mm,
that's an example kind of what, connected to the whole mouthwash thing, like,
mm.
is like, at least in our culture, like if there's some hyper vigilance around this to not let
Yeah.
kids or boys be boys. They made them
Mm,
fragile, and they connect to the parents as if they can't handle this themselves. It's not like, it's different if it's like in an area where your kid brought a switchblade, or
yeah.
your kid is getting aggressive, or bringing actually a firecracker with a
Yeah.
lighter, or things like that. But my God, bubblegum,
Mm,
climbing a bar and doing pull-ups.
mm.
Sorry
I
for
don't
the
know.
digression. I think I
Yeah,
needed
no,
to.
no, no. I think that's probably a perfect example of when I was saying how much is too much. Well, that what you've just explained then is to me way beyond the line of
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just I don't know
yeah,
excess in a lot of ways. I think that's yeah where
yeah,
it potentially becomes more damaging than
yep,
whatever you're trying to think you're protecting a kid from.
yep,
I don't know, but I agree. I don't know. I do like the sort of yeah cross continents, but Gen X still stands in how we see things. I love that. But if I can ask you, as we wrap up and we bring this home, what's next for you? What's next on the horizon?
Well, it's funny you were asking me that question, because typically it would be something that I got some event going on, or a book's coming out. Truly, it's kind of a more rebranding of
Mm-hmm.
myself and my approach to my work. I'm
Mm-hmm.
semi-retired and I still coach, and I did, my book came out last year, but I'm I'm probably gonna start writing book number 2 and 3, and that will involve conscious parenting. But yeah, I'm kind of moving in a different direction with my coaching model and how I
Mm-hmm.
show up. I want to do more speaking and working with groups, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe less. Just it's hard to explain here, but I guess you'll just see that kind of happen, the unfoldment. I mean, imagine you're gonna put some links here, and this, and people can stay in
Yeah,
touch with me to
yeah.
kind of see that unfoldment. But lot is coming. I'm excited about the changes on our planet. I mean, I know there's a lot. It's a shit show, but I also
Mm.
know that um, old systems are breaking apart for the new Earth to surface. So
Mm. Yeah. No, I love that, and yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm not involved in it. I can see outward looking into the US, and it does look quite a. I don't know.
yeah,
I know we live in an age where the content that gets fed to us is sensationalized, but yeah, there does seem a lot. But I've got to say, it does feel like it's a sort of a time for healers, not
mhm,
wanting to be too grandiose with that. But I think the people who can put it together and can help people make sense of it,
mhm.
yeah, we need more of that at the moment. So I want to
Yeah.
say thank you for your time today, Ray.
Thank you.
It's been amazing talking to you. I really have enjoyed myself and I've learned a lot.
Likewise.
Thank you. No, it's been great. And thank you out there again for listening. As always, I appreciate the support. If I can ask you to look out for me on Instagram and TikTok under Social Harmony Talk and Facebook under Social Harmony Time to Talk. I'll post show links, clips, videos, information on new episodes, things like that, where I'll launch a new episode every Monday at 6 p.m. New Zealand time on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if I could ask you, please follow, like, share across those platforms. I really do enjoy that. If you would like to have a conversation yourself, please get in touch, send me a DM or whatever, and we can discuss a future episode together. But for now, go well, look after yourselves, and keep talking. Thank you very much for listening.